know, there's a lot of people in the Christian world that make an impression, but there's very few people that actually make an impact. And there's a really big difference between the two. A lot of people have asked me, why do I keep coming back to San Diego to do the conference every summer? Why is that something that I've done now for nearly 20 years? Very simple, because of Mark Hoffman. Very simple.
Mark Hoffman has been in ministry for over 30 years. 25 years ago, Mark and Dave got together and started Foothills Christian Church. In those past 25 years, Mark has been a visionary that has started several different ministries in the church and outside of the church. In the past 25 years, Mark has started 4 different schools. He's the director and the founder of Youth Venture Teen Centers. Now there's 4 Youth Venture Teen Centers around East County, San Diego. Mark was the visionary that started Higher Ground after-school Bible clubs that are on 13 different middle school campuses and 4 different high school campuses. And then 15 years ago, almost to the day, Mark started our first Future Quest Youth Conference right here at Foothills Christian Church.
When I began to get serious about God, Mark pursued me. He asked if I would want to meet with him sometime, and as senior pastor, I was like, yeah. He spent time teaching me how to know God's will. I remember after the first Future Quest, Mark Hoffman asked me, why didn't you volunteer? I had just been telling him I wanted to be more involved, and I told him, well, Mark, I just don't have anything to offer you. And so it's pretty funny how God has, through his influence, given me a focus on youth and has changed my heart and has actually placed me as the director of Future Quest.
When I met Mark about 15 years ago, and 15 years later, I can say that Mark has from that moment lured me in to the love of Christ by being my spiritual father. If I could say one thing about Mark, is he is a man that will leave the flock to go after the missing sheep. The one lost, Mark will leave everybody to go find. And I'm eternally grateful, and he knows it, and he knows I love him. Mwah.
You may have heard a story that Pastor Mark Hoffman's told about 1,000,000 times about a kid who spit in his face when he was doing youth ministry. Well, that was me. But even though I walked away from God for about 10 years that day, the words that he spoke to me always stayed with me. And I ended up getting saved and receiving God in my heart. And one day I went back to tell Mark that I'd gotten saved and all the great things that had happened in my life. Well, he opened up his Bible, and there were all these names in the Bible. And I was one of those names. And he'd never given up on me. He always had hope in me. And he prayed for me that entire time. And I gotta say, that's probably one of the most impactful things that has happened in my life as a Christian.
During the time when I was an intern here at the church, I was in the internship for about 3 years, and every week we would have a meeting with Mark. And so he would let us know about some of the things that were going on in the church. But more importantly, we spent most of that time looking at the Bible, and it just seemed like off the top of his head, he would pull out such profound and rich insights from the Word of God that I had never looked at the Bible that way. And just hearing the conviction in the way that he talked about the Bible, it was obvious that he really believed every promise. It definitely changed my approach to faith.
Mark took me to Mount Helix and prayed with me and talked to me about the Lord. And I remember when I first dedicated my life to the Lord and asked him into my heart, it was in our kitchen with Mark. And I remember doing the junior high ministry when I was just turning 18. They asked me to take over junior high ministry. And one of the reasons I did it is because the experience I had with Mark and how he led us to love God.
Everything I have that I'm thankful for came from Mark, indirectly from God. I met Mark when I was 12 at Youth Venture. That's nearly 20 years ago. I wanted nothing to do with God or doing what is good and right, and Mark continually pursued me. And when I was 17, that helped lead me and guide me in the way I was supposed to go. I'm now 30, and I have a completely blessed life, and I'm thankful.
One of the things that has always stood out to me about Mark is I never felt like he was doing something because he felt like he was supposed to. I always felt like he was doing things because that's who he was. I always felt like the the ministry that he's involved in is because that's where his heart is. It's just what he loves to do.
Mark has always, I think, just kind of had that call in his life where he's drawn to the people that are like that don't feel like there's ever going to be that person to come into their life and really show them love. I know for me, I had never felt love, not from my parents, and he was that first example of love.
Hebrews 13:7 says, "Remember those who led you, and considering the result of their conduct, imitate their faith." And Mark Hoffman has given me such an example.
I love you. And together, we continue to make an impact. That's the power of partnership. And I'm honored to be a partner with you. God bless you, my friend. Happy anniversary.